The partnership test 1 month after Barcelona, Amara found herself in a sleek London office, finalizing details of what Dominic called the preliminary partnership. She had agreed to a trial collaboration, developing a limited capsule collection using the consortium's resources while maintaining ownership of her original business. These contract terms protect your interests while allowing us to demonstrate what we can offer, Dominic explained, sliding documents across the polished conference table. 5 pieces, produced with our technology, marketed through our channels. Amara reviewed the paperwork carefully. Her lawyer, whom she'd insisted on bringing despite Dominic's assurances, nodded approval at the surprisingly equitable terms. "And if the collection succeeds?" she asked. "Then we discuss permanent arrangements," Dominic replied. "But you'll negotiate from a position of proven success rather than potential." The following weeks transformed Amara's understanding of her own craft. Working between London and Barcelona, she integrated advanced manufacturing techniques with the handcrafting methods she'd learned in Lagos. The results transcended her. Original vision, pieces that honored traditional Nigerian metalwork while achieving structural possibilities previously beyond reach. Throughout the process, Dominic remained closely involved, revealing a genuine understanding of both the technical and artistic elements of her work. Their professional relationship evolved into something less adversarial, marked by spirited debates and unexpected moments of synchronicity in their creative visions. "You never told me why you were so certain I was the right designer," Amara said one evening as they reviewed prototypes in the Barcelona workshop. Dominic hesitated, then retrieved his phone, showing her an image of a small pendant, one of her earliest pieces, created while still a student. "My sister bought this from a small gallery in London 3 years ago. When she died last year, it was among her possessions." His voice softened. "I researched the artist who created the piece that meant so much to her." The revelation shifted something between them. Amara began to see beyond Dominic's calculated business persona to the complexity beneath. A brilliant strategist who had channeled personal loss into creative purpose. As the collection neared completion, complications arose. One of Dominic's consortium partners questioned the investment in an unproven designer and pushed to reduce Amara's creative control. Market analysts suggested modifications to make her designs more commercially accessible, diluting the very elements that made them unique. In a tense meeting in Geneva, Dominic surprised everyone by defending Amara's original vision. "We approached her because her perspective is distinctive," he argued. "Diluting that defeats our purpose." Later, alone in her hotel room, Amara confronted the truth she'd been avoiding. Her feelings for Dominic had evolved beyond professional respect into something more complicated. His defense of her work had revealed a loyalty she hadn't expected from someone so strategically minded. But as the collection's launch approached, she discovered documents suggesting the consortium planned to use her designs as templates for an AI system that could eventually generate similar work without human designers. The revelation left her questioning everything, especially whether Dominic had known all along. Beyond calculations. The collection's launch exhibition transformed London's Victoria and Albert Museum into a showcase of technological artistry. Amara's pieces, displayed on interactive pedestals that revealed their creation process, drew acclaim from critics and industry leaders alike. "Okafor's work represents the perfect synthesis of heritage and innovation," wrote one influential reviewer. "These pieces aren't merely jewelry, they're wearable manifestations of cultural evolution." Amara should have been celebrating. Instead, she stood apart from the crowd, watching Dominic network with potential investors. The documents she'd discovered, plans for an AI design system that would ultimately render human craftspeople obsolete, weighed heavily on her mind. When Dominic finally approached her, champagne flutes in hand, she accepted one warily. "Careful," she said. We know what happened last time you handed me a drink. I promise to maintain better control this time, he replied with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Something's wrong. You should be triumphant tonight. Amara led him to a quiet alcove away from the buzzing crowd. I found the Prometheus project files, she said without preamble. Your AI system designed to replicate distinctive artistic styles. Was that always the plan? Use my work to teach your algorithm, then discard the human element? Dominic's expression darkened. Where did you get those files? Does it matter? What matters is you never mentioned it. Because I fought against it, he said, his composure slipping. The Prometheus project existed before I found your work. Some partners see it as the inevitable future. Why pay designers when algorithms can generate infinite variations? But I've been arguing that true innovation comes from human experience, not simulation. And you expect me to believe that? I expect you to judge me by my actions. His voice hardened. I've defended your creative control at every turn. I structured our agreement to protect your intellectual property rights. Why would I do that if I intended to exploit your work? The conversation was interrupted by the consortium's chairman announcing the official partnership extension, a 5-year exclusive deal with Amara's brand. The crowd applauded, cameras flashed, and Amara realized a decision had been presented as already made. Later that night, in Dominic's office overlooking the Thames, the final confrontation unfolded. You orchestrated tonight perfectly, Amara acknowledged. Announcing our partnership publicly makes it nearly impossible for me to walk away without damaging my reputation. That wasn't my intention, Dominic insisted. The chairman jumped ahead of our discussions, just like you've been calculating every move since Barcelona. Amara placed a small wooden box on his desk. I brought you something. Inside lay a pendant, identical to the one his sister had owned. I keep one piece from every collection I create, she explained. This was my first. It represents what I believe about my work, that it should connect people to something authentic. Dominic held the pendant carefully. What are you saying? I'm saying I won't sign your extended partnership. Not as it stands. Amara's voice was steady. I'll complete our current agreement, but any future collaboration must include my involvement in determining how this technology develops. If your consortium wants my designs, they accept my vision for ethical innovation. She expected resistance. Instead, Dominic looked at her with newfound respect. You've calculated your leverage perfectly, he said with a hint of admiration. What if I told you I've already been working on an alternative proposal? One that establishes an academy to train artisans in these new technologies rather than replacing them? Dawn was breaking over London when they finally reached an understanding. Not merely a business arrangement, but a shared commitment to a future where technology enhanced human creativity rather than supplanting it. As Amara prepared to return to Lagos, temporarily to establish a branch of their new academy there, Dominic walked her to the car. You know, that champagne spill in Barcelona truly was accidental, he said, though I admit everything that followed was rather meticulously planned. Not everything, Amara replied, touching his face gently. Some calculations can't account for human variables. Their kiss, unplanned and genuine, was the first truly spontaneous moment in their carefully orchestrated relationship, and a promise that whatever they built together would balance strategic vision with authentic connection. The spilled champagne. The Barcelona Design Exhibition glittered with promise under the Mediterranean evening sky. Crystal chandeliers cast honeyed light across the rooftop venue as Amara Okafor adjusted her handcrafted emerald earrings with trembling fingers. After years of perfecting her craft in small Lagos workshops, tonight represented her international debut. Her meticulously designed jewelry collection displayed alongside Europe's elite artisans. Breathe. Just breathe, she whispered to herself, smoothing down the midnight blue gown she'd spent weeks creating specifically for this moment. The dress, like her jewelry, blended traditional Nigerian beadwork with contemporary silhouettes, representing the fusion that made her designs unique. "Ms. Okafor?" A coordinator approached with a tablet. "Your collection has drawn significant interest. 3 gallery representatives wish to speak with you after the presentations." Amara nodded, relief washing through her. Perhaps the sacrifices, the depleted savings, the sleepless nights, the skeptical family members questioning why she'd abandoned a promising engineering career, would finally be vindicated. She navigated through the crowded rooftop, practicing her pitch mentally while balancing a barely touched glass of champagne. Her collection stood in an alcove ahead, illuminated perfectly against Barcelona's twinkling skyline. Just as she approached, her display, preparing to greet potential buyers, disaster struck. A tall figure backed into her path without warning. The collision sent champagne cascading across her carefully crafted gown, the liquid seeping instantly into the delicate fabric. "No," Amara gasped, jumping back too late. Cold champagne trickled down her dress, destroying hours of handiwork. In seconds. "I'm terribly sorry," came a deep voice with a British accent. The man turned, revealing striking features, angular jaw, intense gray eyes, and an expression of genuine dismay. "That was entirely my fault. Do you have any idea what you've done?" Amara dabbed frantically at the spreading stain with a cocktail napkin. "This isn't just any dress. I made this for your debut," he finished, surprising her. "I know who you are. Amara Okafor, the jewelry designer whose work combines traditional West African metalwork techniques with contemporary European minimalism." She paused, her futile, blotting. "How would you know that?" "Dominic Mercer." He offered his hand, which she pointedly ignored. "And I make it my business to know about emerging talents." "Well, Mr. Mercer, your knowledge hasn't improved your spatial awareness." She fought to keep her voice steady as nearby attendees began to stare. "I'm supposed to present my collection in 20 minutes. "Let me help," he insisted, beckoning to a server. "Perhaps we can—" "You've done enough," Amara cut him off. "Please, just go." Her phone buzzed. The gallery owner she'd been courting wanted to meet immediately. Looking down at her ruined dress, Amara felt panic rising. Years of work, thousands of euros invested, and now she would make her first impression looking like a disaster. "At least take my card." Dominic pressed a heavy cardstock business card into her palm. "I truly want to make this right." Amara glanced at the card, embossed with only his name and a phone number, before slipping it into her clutch. "There's nothing to make right, Mr. Mercer. Accidents happen." Her voice was cool, professional, masking the devastation she felt. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to salvage what's left of the most important night of my career." As she hurried away, she missed the calculating look that replaced Dominic's apologetic expression, and the way his eyes lingered not on her retreating figure, but on the jewelry collection she'd left momentarily unattended. Persistent shadows. The morning after the exhibition disaster, Amara sat in a quiet corner of Café Barceloneta, nursing an espresso while reviewing the mixed results of her debut. Despite the champagne incident, 2 boutique owners had expressed interest in her pieces. Not the career-launching success she'd hoped for, but not a complete failure either. "Is this seat taken?" The familiar British accent made her look up sharply. Dominic Mercer stood before her, impeccably dressed in a light linen suit that seemed designed for Barcelona's summer heat. His presence was no longer apologetic, but confident, almost expectant. "You again?" Amara remarked, closing her portfolio. "Are you following me, Mr. Mercer?" "Barcelona is smaller than it seems," he replied, taking the seat across from her without waiting for permission. How did the rest of your evening go? Amara studied him, noting details she'd missed during their chaotic first encounter. The precision of his tailored clothes, the subtle but expensive watch on his wrist, the calculating intelligence behind his smile. Better than expected, considering I looked like I'd been caught in a champagne shower. She paused. Though I'm curious why you're interested in my evening at all. Before he could answer, the waiter appeared. Dominic ordered in flawless Spanish, then turned back to her. I'm interested because your work is extraordinary. The Midas collection, particularly the interlocking gold cuffs with raw emerald insets, they showcase technical mastery few contemporary designers possess. The specificity of his knowledge unsettled her. You've done your research. I'm thorough when something catches my interest. His gray eyes held hers steadily. And your designs caught my attention months ago. When Amara left the cafe an hour later, she told herself the encounter was coincidental. But when Dominic appeared at the Picasso Museum later that afternoon, and again at the rooftop restaurant where she dined that evening, coincidence seemed increasingly implausible. By the third accidental meeting, Amara confronted him directly. What do you want from me? Are you some kind of high-end stalker? They stood in the Gothic quarter, evening shadows stretching between ancient buildings. Tourists streamed past, but Amara felt oddly isolated with this mysterious man who seemed determined to intrude upon her Barcelona experience. I represent a consortium of investors, Dominic finally admitted. We identify unique talent in emerging markets. Your background in engineering, combined with your artistic vision, it's precisely what we look for. So the champagne spill was what? An elaborate introduction strategy? Amara crossed her arms defensively. That was genuinely accidental, Dominic replied, though something flickered in his expression. But I'll admit, I've been trying to find the right moment to approach you properly. Most people would schedule a meeting. Would you have taken it? A random investor approaching you out of nowhere? Amara hesitated. Probably not. Exactly. He stepped closer. I'd like to show you something tomorrow. A workshop here in Barcelona. It might help explain my interest more clearly. Why should I trust you? You shouldn't, he answered with surprising honesty. Not yet, but I'm offering you a chance to expand your vision beyond what you currently imagine possible. All it costs is one afternoon of your time. Against her better judgment, Amara found herself agreeing to meet him the following day. That night, she researched Dominic Mercer extensively, finding limited information. Graduate of Imperial College, London, former executive at several technology firms, now operating independently as an investor with a reputation for unconventional but successful ventures. What she couldn't determine was why such a man would take such intense interest in her. Small jewelry business, or why, despite her suspicions, she felt compelled to discover what he was truly offering. Revelations at sunset. The workshop Dominic brought her to was nestled in Barcelona's industrial district, an unassuming building that gave no hint of its contents. Inside, however, Amara found herself in a wonderland of technology and artistry. 3D, printers calibrated for precious metals, holographic design interfaces, and artisans working with tools she'd only read about in industry journals. What is this place? She whispered, watching as a technician manipulated a virtual design that materialized in silver before her eyes. The future of artisanal luxury, Dominic replied, guiding her through the space. My consortium developed this facility to bridge traditional craftsmanship with emerging technologies. For hours, Amara explored the workshop, asking technical questions that surprised even the senior designers. Her engineering background allowed her to grasp the potential of the tools with remarkable speed. By late afternoon, she had already sketched modifications to one of her designs, improvements impossible to execute with her current resources in Lagos. As the day waned, Dominic led her to the rooftop terrace overlooking the Mediterranean. The Setting sun cast golden light across Barcelona's skyline, painting the scene in hues that reminded Amara of her metalwork. "Now you understand why I approached you," Dominic said, pouring 2 glasses of wine. "Carefully this time. Your designs aren't just beautiful, they're structurally innovative. With these resources, they could revolutionize the industry. What exactly are you proposing?" Amara accepted the wine cautiously. "A partnership, initial funding of €2 million to establish your brand globally with access to our facilities and distribution networks." The figure made Amara's breath catch. "And in return, 30% equity in your company," she laughed sharply. "That's aggressive for initial funding." "It would be," Dominic agreed, "if that were all we're offering. But this isn't just capital, Amara. It's entree into a world that typically takes designers decades to access." As the sunset deepened, Dominic finally revealed the full truth. The consortium wasn't merely interested in fashion or jewelry. They were developing an entirely new marketplace for luxury goods, combining blockchain authentication with artisanal craftsmanship. They needed a flagship designer whose work embodied this fusion of tradition and innovation. "You've been watching me for months," Amara realized. "The champagne spill was genuinely accidental," Dominic insisted, though his eyes betrayed him. "But I'll admit, I'd planned to introduce myself that night. Perhaps not so dramatically." "You deliberately created a situation where I'd be vulnerable and grateful for help," she said, anger rising. "You manipulated this entire situation." "I created an opportunity," he countered, "one that benefits us both." As night fell over Barcelona, Amara faced a choice that would define her future. Trust this man who had orchestrated their meeting with calculated precision, or walk away from the opportunity of a lifetime.